Hello students, I am Himani Sharma, your UGC NET Paper 1 educator. In this video, a new YouTube video, we will be moving forward with our 30-day plan, that is for the last lap for your UGC NET 2023 preparation. In the past videos, we have done certain PYQs and I told you that the focus of this very program is entirely the concepts which will be dealt by us for you with the usage of PYQs, or what we commonly know as the previous years or the past year papers or the questions which are there, right? So in this video I have bring forth for you certain new concepts, certain new types of research based on the questions based on various types of research. So I hope you are aware of certain types and you all will be able to answer. So without wasting any time, let us just see the first question that we have for today. The first question is, quantitative research is also called the, you can pause your videos here and try to answer this very question. The answer to this very question is option D, that is structured approach. Now when we talk about the quantitative research part, first of all you all should be aware that something which is quantitative in nature is always and always measurable, correct? Because we are talking about quantities here. Another thing, if we read about the explanation of the answer, it says that it relates to empirical methods. Now, in one of the previous videos, we have done different kinds of research paradigms where I have told you that if we talk about the empiricism part, empiricism is something which talks about the observation and the measurement as well. Correct? So if something is being measured, it is empirical in nature. It is quantitative in nature, right? Also, it is based on various facts and figures because it is numerical. It is quantitative. You can count it down, and not really in the quantitative part. You can also do it statistically, correct? This research aims to use mathematical models and hypotheses for various phenomena. Quantitative research takes place in artificial settings, which is a really important point from the NET perspective because the question was asked for the qualitative part. So, if you see in the quantitative part, the settings which we have here are artificial or human based or human made artificial settings which are there, right? On a specific people with a certain situation which is a made up situation. Correct? And data is reported through statistical analysis, which we have talked about. We have talked about certain statistical scales. So comment down below and let me know which were the different types of statistical scales that we have talked about and done in the previous classes, in the previous videos. Moving forward with the next point, the data collection method follows a structural or structured approach. Now, let's just see here, for example, if we talk about, see, it is always predetermined. That's why it is structured. If I ask you certain questions in a chronological manner and I ask the same set of questions to other people, or let's just say if I have formed a survey and that contains 10 to 15 questions which are there, and I am asking you the same questions, I am distributing the same set of questions to every person who is a participant there in my research for the survey part. So what will be there? They all will be having the same questions framed, predetermined, which are there. They are supposed to answer those questions. Hence it is structured in nature, correct? Formal questionnaire, as I told you, the questions are prepared in advance. This is just an example that they are talking about. So you are moving in an orderly and systematic fashion if you talk about in the serious part where you talk about the quantitative research part, right? Also, the exact wording is there, right? Because every person is receiving the same questionnaire, right? Name, age, date of birth, etc. All the things, all the questions which are asked there are same for everyone. Hence, it is structured approach. Hence, we have option 10 as the correct answer. Moving forward with the second question that we have, pause your screens a little bit more to see and match list 1 with list 2. The answer here for this question that we have is option B, which says A 4, B 3, C 1 and D 2. So first of all, let's just look here and then we will be moving forward with the explanation. Analytical research is something which is associated with seeing the cause and effect, analyzing the cause and effect in a relationship in the variables that we have. Right? So also another question for you all, tell me which is the variable which is always manipulated. Comment down below and tell me. Also moving forward, what we have for the explanation part here. Analytical research, as the name suggests, it analyzes that why certain thing happen and what and how it occurred, right? So it explains the causal relationship, it explains the cause and effect relationship by analyzing it, correct? Deductive research is something which moves from general thing to specific. So if in the previous slide we see for the deductive part, we matched deductive with beginning with the hypothesis. Why? Because in the deductive research, a researcher will try to prove anything using a theory. So researcher will have his hypothesis, his problem in his mind, but how is he going to proceed with that very thing is through a theory. And that theory is already established. For instance, as we talked about the theory of gravity. Right? So if I am doing a research of making a paper fall on the ground, making a water bottle fall on the ground just to see the force of gravity which is there, right, to see the theory of gravity, to test it, right, so I have a hypothesis in mind and how I am going to test it using the theory. So a general theory is there which is there, the gravity theory, and I am going to apply it on the specific purposes, the specific part, correct? Incremental research is something which is related with the improvisation of something which is already existing, correct? So improvement or extension of something which is already there. So for instance, if we talk about a coffee mug, in today's time we have coffee mugs in which we have to stir the coffee and make it, right? But what if that same mug is improvised using a stirrer which works on its own? Right? You need not stir the coffee. So the things are already available there, but you are just improvising them. That is incremental research. Descriptive research, as we have in the last, is something, as the name suggests only, is going to describe certain thing. Describe a problem, situation, phenomena about what is occurring, right? What is occurring is the main focus here by describing or explaining things, correct? Then we have next question, which is a statement based question. Pause your screens again and try to answer this question. The answer to this question is option A. Both A statement 1 and statement 2 are correct. What do we have for in statement 1? Let's just say. Statement 1 says qualitative research is an umbrella term to refer to various research strategies that share certain characteristics. Okay. Statement 2 says the research data collected in qualitative research has been termed soft. That it means that data is rich in description or description of people, places, whatever data is collected, right? So first of all, qualitative research is obviously the opposite of quantitative, and here we do the in-depth analysis, correct? We talk about the quality of certain things and not the quantity. Primarily exploratory research, you are exploring something to gain an insight and understanding of certain reasons, opinions and motivations, right? And it helps us to develop certain ideas or hypotheses. Also used to uncover trends in thoughts and opinions. Now if, let's just take here for example, a person sitting for a PhD interview. The interviewee is going to ask him certain questions, right? Why did you choose that topic? What sparked your interest in that very theory, right? So all those questions will be based on the person who is sitting there for the interview, right? And the structured approach will not be followed here because of the fact that the answers which are being given by the student who is sitting here for the interview are in-depth plus subjective in nature. So the researcher is moving forward. The researcher is asking, the researcher is answering the question which the PhD scholar or the interviewee is asking him, right? And he is answering based on them. And from those very questions or those very answers, the interviewee can form another question. Hence, it is not the limited structure of questions which are there, but the interview can range out. The interview can ask questions which are related to multiple fields, right? Based with the question that we are talking about in the qualitative part. So in the qualitative research, he or she, the person whosoever is conducting the research, is taking the data which focuses on the thought processes, opinions and beliefs of people, right? The aim is to determine qualitative variables which are related to in-depth analysis. It discovers ideas which are used in exploratory research with a general research objective. Also, it has some other pointers which we have here. The result that we gather here is always subjective. You all used to write subjective type answers in your questions, right? When you were there in your university or college level, you used to write explanations. That is what we have here. The interpretations of certain things, the explanations, or the in-depth study, because qualitative, if you are memorizing qualitative, you are supposed to memorize the word in-depth, correct? To observe, understand and interpret the collected information, you use unstructured approach, because in the quantitative part we are just using same questions for different people, hence it is a structured approach. And qualitative, being the opposite part of the quantitative research, is unstructured, that it can reach out from the question what is your name to like any other random question, like about, even if we talk about the theory of gravity, it can reach out from one question to another unstructured question, correct? The next question that we have is the ethnographic research. In the ethnographic research, data collection is done through. So pause your screens and answer the question. The answer is option D, using all of them. So first of all, what is ethnographic research? The etymology says that it has derived from the word ethno, right? We say the word ethnic. She is wearing ethnic today, which is obviously related to culture. We say it in the Indian context, people might have different ethnicities as well, right? So ethnographic research is basically the research which refers to the investigation of a culture, people, through an in-depth study. Now, when I say ethnographic is also in-depth study, it obviously means that it is being qualitative in nature. Correct? And whatever data you collect in this very research can be collected using the tools interviews, right? You can conduct interviews of people by gathering the information, having a one-to-one conversation with them. Participant observation, you can stay with the people in the ethnographic research part, with that very ethnic culture people, right, the group which is there, and you can observe them, or by giving them questionnaire, correct? These three tools are qualitative as well as they are used in ethnographic research. So all the three tools which we talked about here are the ones which can be used for the data collection in ethnographic part. The next question is, the research stream of immediate application is called as. The answer here for this question is option B, action research. Now, whenever you will see the action research or applied research is, action research is a part of applied research only. First of all, remember this very differentiation, because students tend to get confused between action and applied research. So we have the answer as action research. What is action research? To solve an immediate problem. It is cyclic in nature. How is that cyclic? We will be talking about that as well. It is a form of interpretive research to study human actions and social practices with the participation of the researcher. So you see here in the action research, first of all, action research was also a term which was coined by Kurt Lewin. right? And he gave the concept of action research, and he said that action research means that learning by doing. Act, you do certain things and you learn through those very things, and the participation of the researcher is a must there. For example, if a teacher wants to see that there are particular teaching methods that she is using in the class, they are not reaping benefits, she will change the teaching methods. From the traditional, she can move to the visual boards. From the visuals, she can, teach using flashcards. All of those things and seeing their effect is because the participant, the researcher, is also participating in the research. He or she is doing and he is learning things, that this thing is correct, this methodology is okay for the students to learn, and this is not. It is applied research which is focused on immediate application, not to develop any theory for general application. So, it does not apply there the education part that we have. For instance, as I told you, the teaching part, the theory which you have here is just for a general purpose. So, mind you, this is a differentiation between action and applied, that applied research can be generalized, but action research cannot be generalized because it is done for a particular group only. It refers to the application of research to the educational problems. As I told you, most of the times the action research is used in the educational spheres only, right, where the teacher, who is the let's just say knower of things, is doing and involving himself in the process and doing certain things to improvise. So, there is this particular cycle of action research which is the favorite question of UGC examiners. They ask what is the action cycle which is there. So, it is plan, act, observe and reflect. P, A, O, R. You can memorize it like that. Correct? It is a continuous cycle. One can circle back to earlier phases within a cycle. Cycle back and forth between reflection and planning, because of the fact that you thought that alright, from teaching in the traditional method I moved to teach in group discussions, through group discussions, but that was also not reaping benefits. So, from reflecting that very lecture or the things that you did from that very plan, you again move backward to the planning, that this thing did not work, let me try this other method which is there. Correct? So, hence it is cyclic in nature, because you can cycle back and forth from the planning, the reflection or any other part which is the four cyclic, wheeled we can say research which is there. The next question that we have is, what type of studies would be most appropriate to use in order to measure changed opinions of people or consumers repeatedly? So, pause your screens. The answer to this question is C, that is longitudinal studies. So, let's just read the question once again. The type of study which would be most appropriate to use in order to measure changed opinions of consumers repeatedly, which means that you are measuring people's opinions. So, the people here are same people, but different timings. Correct? So, you see here that you are measuring the same people, the same consumers repeatedly after one slot or the other, after 1 year, whatever time that you have set for your longitudinal study. First of all, what is a longitudinal study? That involves repeated observation of the same variables, that is people, over a short or a longer span of time. Correct? So, that depends on your research, that how long do you want to do your research on them. It is a type of observational study because you observe the changes made in those very variables, if there are any. Although they can be structured as longitudinal randomized experiments. The huge disadvantage of this very thing, this longitudinal study method, is this, that sometimes you might be short of time, right? It is a time, as it typically takes a substantial time to collect the data that is required. So, you are measuring the same individuals time and again in January, February, March, April to, let's just say, December. So, it took your research at least 1 year just to collect the data through a longitudinal study to see if their traits, if anything changed from them, right? For example, consider a study conducted to understand the similarity or differences between identical twins who are brought up together versus identical twins who were not. So there are two groups who are there, which are there. One is the identical twins who were brought up together, who lived in the same environment, ate same food, right, went anywhere and everywhere together, and some other another group of identical twins which did not live together. So if one wants to see that their traits, the changes made in those traits, he will do a longitudinal study, which will obviously substantially take a lot of their time to observe if there were any changes between the group who lived together, the identical twins which lived together, and the ones who did not live together. Next question again is really important. The combination of research different methods, study groups, local and temporal settings, and different theoretical perspectives in dealing with the phenomena is called, it is called triangulation. A. Triangulation, which means that you are collecting data from multiple areas, you are referring to it, you are analyzing it through multiple sources. Let's just read it from here. The use of multiple methods or data sources in qualitative research to develop a comprehensive understanding of a phenomena. So if particular you are interpreting a book, you are also asking some other person to gather their data on the same book, their opinions, correct, to analyze results of the same study using different methods. So different methods are there, right, and data is collecting using different methods. Three main purposes the uses are there: to enhance the validity of the research. The major important point of triangulation is that if obviously valid, if your research is being repeated over time, it should be the same. Hence, it will prove its validity as well. The applicability and the validity also go hand in hand. So, it enhances the validity of the research. To create more in-depth picture of a research problem, because I might be biased towards reading a particular novel and presenting my view and asking other people to get involved in my research for their opinion on that very particular novel, I can see the research problem from different perspectives as well. Also, to interrogate different ways of understanding a research problem, as I told you, the interpretations may vary. Right, to test the validity through the convergence of information from different sources. So multiple methods, multiple people will be there, right, all of you will be dealing in the multiplicity, right, multiplicity of data, multiplicity of sources, multiplicity of even the examination or the analysis part, correct. Hence it is known as triangulation. It is used in research. It is the phenomena of combining different methods, different study groups, local and temporal settings, and different theoretical perspectives which are there. Hence, it is known as triangulation. Next question that we have here is the study of why does stressful living result in heart attack can be classified as. The answer here is option B, explanatory research, because it is talking about why. And the answer in your research will be obviously the reasons, because the stress might have led you to eat certain things, right? Stressful living, because of that heart attacks happen. So in attempts to clarify why and how there is a relationship between two or more aspects, explanatory research is used. This type of research attempts to explain situations, as the name suggests, because it is explanatory in nature, which is why, as we have in the question, why stressful living results in heart attacks, correct. This is mainly concerned with causes or why factor about a phenomena. Why this happened? Why was an earthquake, there? Those things which deal with whys are the sources of the explanatory research, correct? The next question is a assertion and reason based question, which says social science research has become popular to understand the hows and whys of human behavior. The reason might be because human behavior can be studied in scientific ways like the physical world. The answer to this question is option A. Both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of the assertion that is there. Let's just see why. Social science research has been in high demand everywhere in today's time, right? Due to the fact that human behavior, in social sciences only human behavior can be studied scientifically, correct? Just like the physical world. Hence, if we read both these statements together only, that social science research has become popular to understand hows and whys of human behavior, because human behavior can be studied in scientific ways as well in today's time. Let's just take the example of psychology. That psychology, even if it is a social science field, right, even if it is related with that, you can analyze that a person is being anxious. You can analyze a person is being depressed through the usage of certain scientific methods, correct? Another question that we have here is the critical difference between experimental and ex post facto. Two really very important types of research are in the terms of what? So pause your screens, look at the options really carefully, because we are going to study these two types correctly here only. The answer to this question is option D. Critical difference is based on the control and manipulation of the independent variable, right? So these two are the ones which have a differentiation, right? Obviously there are independent and dependent variables in both of them, but there is a difference at how those variables can be controlled. The experimental method, first of all, features the manipulation of an independent variable, the measurement of a dependent variable, and control of extraneous variables. So we can take in the experimental method the example of a new medicine. Right? A new medicine which is my independent variable. Correct? And the effect of that very medicine on my heart health is the dependent variable. Correct? So in the experimental part, I am going to see if I am taking dosage of a new medicine, does that affect my heart health in a good sense, right? Does it improve my heart health? So the effect is going to be observed on the dependent variable, but I might see that there are certain extraneous variables which need to be controlled in particular experiments as well. In the previous classes, in the previous videos, we have talked about extraneous variables, right? So here we have the control of those extraneous variables. The manipulation of the independent variable, control of extraneous variable is quite possible in the ex post facto method and descriptive survey method. Correct? But it is completely impossible in the historical research method. If we talk about the historical research method, we cannot control any variables there because the things have already happened or occurred, right? Experimental research is a study that strictly adheres to scientific research design, and I have given you the example of the same, correct? It includes a hypothesis that I am going to test, right? I am going to test the new medicine and its effect on my heart health. A variable that can be manipulated, the medicine, that on days when I take that medicine, does that improve my heart health, and on days when I did not, what happened, right? So manipulation of the variable is being seen, that can be measured, right, calculated and compared. It is completed in a controlled environment. Currently we are just talking about the experimental method. Ex post study now, it is known as after the fact, which means after the fact has occurred. That is what we are going to study in the ex post facto, post, after, correct? So in the ex post facto, the things have already occurred and now you are going to see their causes. The effect has already been done, right, on the dependent variable. The effect has already been seen, but now you are going to see what were the causes, what led to that very dependent variable, that very cause, right, that very effect. So design in which the investigation starts after the fact has occurred, after the incident has occurred, without interference from the researcher. So the researcher is not going to participate in this very research, whereas in the experimental research he will be the one who is observing things. Here he will just be seeing the causes which are there, which have occurred after the process, right? The majority of social research in which it is not possible or acceptable to manipulate the characteristics of human participants is based on ex post facto research. So social research usually uses the method of ex post facto research. The lack of direct control of the independent variable and non-random selection of participants are the most important differences which we have between the ex post facto and the true experimental research design. So if we talk about the experimental design, and if we talk about the ex post facto, if you see, if I say that I have gained weight, right, the effect has already occurred. Now I cannot manipulate that. I see that I have gained a lot of weight, but now I am going to see the causes. Was I eating a lot of chole bhature? Was I doing, was I just sitting and doing certain things? I was not moving, that's why I gained weight, that's why I gained fat. That is what is there, where we are going to see the causes afterwards, the effect are there. So now I am going to see why did I gain weight. This is what is done here. Now you cannot manipulate the independent variable. You cannot see now that I am going to eat less, the food which is less in that very thing which will lead me to have, gain in my loss weight, right? So in the experimental part here, if we talk about, if I just talked about the new medicine, correct? If I just talked about the new medicine here, I told you that at certain point of time at day 1, I took the medicine and I saw that my heart rate was improved, correct? If I talk about it, me not taking it here, I did not take it here in this very time, the second day, I see that again I have pain near my heart. So I am observing and manipulating this very independent variable, that is not taking the medicine or taking the medicine based on my choice, and I am observing its effect. So this is the basic differentiation between the two. Also in the experimental method, you can choose the people randomly. In the ex post facto, things have already occurred. Now you cannot change. Now you cannot randomly assign certain things, right? So this is what we had in today's video when we talk about the types of research. I have another video where we will be moving forward with certain more important types of research so that your last revision part is done entirely, right? In the next video, we will be moving forward as I told you. Till then, keep on studying, keep on smiling, and keep on revising these very things which are really important from your examination point of view. Thank you so much, students. Have a good day.